these like, you know, like mock runs kind of, or like whatever, just like doing things all the way, you just like figure out random stuff. So I think it's good to do. So let's see, it's gonna pick up. Let's just stream key close. Oh, I need to start. I guess it's working, right? Wait, is it working? I think no, there's a button that I have to press to like get it to actually go. I remember hearing that, so let me look for it. Because Google's always very careful about this kind of thing. Title, Jing and Yan. Oh, okay. I think it's okay. You can see it from the link now, but it's just me for. Let me set up the scene to add you in. Do you have a less zoomed out way of setting up your video? Yeah, I mean, I could crop you afterwards, but it's kind of like I could do that on my end, but you know, you're kind of wasting the top 50% and the left and right, you know, respectively 30% of your video, right? Of your camera. I think. I mean, it depends on your setup, but do you have the camera just really far away from you? Okay, if it's inconvenient, then don't worry about it. Just crop it afterwards. Like, I mean, it's from a technical level, it's like it's like if you have like an HD thing, and then you're just using like the bottom corner, so you're actually in like, you know, like the 1980s. There's a video quality. You know, I think it's good for yeah, but you know, the way I think of it, and this is getting off tangent, but it's kind of like improving like the quality of like visuals is like less fatiguing on the eye, so it's kind of like a better experience for anybody watching. Because if it's blurry, your eyes are constantly trying to find focus, so it's actually like quite tiring for the eye. But okay, let me set up the scene then. So I was just asking if I guess if it's too inconvenient, then I'll just set up the scene with you cropped, so that you take up the space. It's just lower resolution. Either way is fine. It's just kind of asking. Okay, so I'll just put me on the left. Oh, huh. Okay, whatever. This is just testing. All right, you can adjust it, but let me set up. Let's see. I'll just set up something on my end. So, screen capture. Okay. Window. All right. Okay, and you can see the. Did I send you the live link yet? Here. You can click that to see. It's gonna be quite delayed, but I'm basically putting you on one side and me on the other, and then we can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so and maybe I just like do an intro to the topic, if that's cool. So
Whatever.
we're chatting about uh we're chatting about. Sorry, I'm still distracted a little bit.
Externalizing information.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still still adjusting the video stuff a little bit. Okay, almost done. Okay, done. Yeah. We're talking about like externalizing information. Like I think this was like quite a topic that I thought a lot about like more recently. Just like interesting enough. Like I was like into music and like how people write music and create music, and at least one of the things that I get inspired by is like really good like lyrics by people, and I think that got me on this like path of thinking about, well, what's the process of like writing good lyrics? Well, you have to have like message, something to say, and it's probably very similar to the process of writing anything, including like poetry or essays or blogs, like anything. And it ultimately just comes down to like you have all these potential, like at some level you need to break it down to like you have some thoughts in your head, and you need to like export it out into the physical world somehow for other people to consume. So there's like some fundamental starting point and end point. And for me, like the reason why that might be hard are or hard, I imagine these are like different things that other people could also improve on. It's like, well, one is you need to like have something to say. So you need to have like even a topic. So coming up with a topic is one thing. The second thing is like organizing your thoughts around that topic, because you could just otherwise just rambling. And then it's the process of like, well, like getting that to a point where it's like exportable is also like a weird thing, and I don't know how to describe that in like if there's better terminology for that, but like you can just think things and it's like not something you can like say because it's just thoughts are not necessarily mapped directly to language. So the process of mapping it to exportable language is another thing, and then like just and then what like the process of that. So whether it's like writing it down to a notebook or notes and things like that. So I think those are the different facets of the whole thing, and I know that you've put a lot of thought into this previously. We talked about it before too, but I thought it'd be good to just revisit this like in this current when I'm like in this current mood. Was that too much?
Yeah, fair enough.
Let me.
Which I think there were a few too many directions.
Yeah.
Can you pick one of the directions first? Like
If there's
the
ones that are more interesting
there
to
was
you.
like the writing process, right? And then there's like the actual externalizing.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think of the things you said, and you will have to remind me of the topics later, because I mean there was a little bit of breaking up, but
Mm-hmm.
the one that immediately sounded pretty interesting is like you have something you know how to say, but you don't know how to say it. Um, that one I think is not very actionable, but for someone who hasn't really worked on the skill really, but I do think that one I have very strong opinions about, which is the more languages you learn, the better. Um, and here I'm using language very loosely. The language might even mean take a picture or something.
Mm-hmm.
If I think about my notes, and maybe this even comes up in your notes, um, sometimes I'm taking English words, sometimes I'm writing in Chinese, sometimes I am like um, dumping my own shorthand. I wrote my own shorthand for kind of certain type of things. Sometimes it's just like drawing a picture because that's the best thing I have. And I think there's a sense in which like no language is sufficient, but if you have like a bunch of different languages, it really helps. So, and sometimes the best thing you can do is just like hum something, right? Maybe you like sing something out or whatever, depending on the actual thing. So they're just speaking languages that makes that part easy because I know what you mean. Like I always find any particular language to be very insufficient once I hit something of sufficient complexity. So I think that's like something to be added there, just like bumping into different communities, using different language sets. Even within English, like I find very abstract language and sometimes very high-fluting academic language extremely helpful in like pinpointing very specific hard things, but they are otherwise too constipated for like very feeling-based things or very like universal things where usually common language suffices and is better.
Yeah, I see. So by the way, I'm like just starting to take notes, which you can see. It's not optimized to show you, uh, right now. But you can see it through the live stream like page. It'll just be delayed. I think so that seems to be related to the point about like taking the thoughts and then finding the words for them, right? Um, but I think the way that you're describing it might be a little bit on the like second half of that, if you will. It's kind of like you know what you want to say and you're trying to like figure out good ways to say it in the way that expresses what you mean, right? I feel like there's a first half of that, which is like you have these like amorphous like thoughts in your head, and maybe people call it different things like intuition or something. It's like these thoughts where you're concluding things, but you're not really thinking through, like, maybe only partially, or zero language in your head. You're just kind of like drawing conclusions in a non-language kind of way. And then, but going from that, bridging that to the language type of thinking is already like a step. So does that make sense as like why I would
Oh yeah, yeah, no,
think
for
of it
sure.
as like the first
I
half or second
understand
half of that?
completely.
Yeah. Do you have any
Yeah.
thoughts about the
I
first
I
half?
guess I mentally treated that as a different step.
I see.
But yeah, yeah, I have a few things to say there. I think the I want to say the skill that reminds me of the most is meditation and its cousins. There's something to be said when you practice like not disturbing your thoughts and letting them play around in the theater of your brain. And here by meditation, I mean kind of the schools where you're like letting the thoughts go through, not like focusing on something else, like breathing. That's kind of a different goal. There's just like, and I don't know the fancy words for them. I'm not like a big meditator, but I find it useful to be in a meditative state and let the thoughts flesh themselves out. And sometimes I see words just like, it's almost like a movie starts to play and the movie is very clear and then words starts to congeal. There's related skills to that for the more esoteric. One school I like is called focusing. Gendlin wrote a thing on it, and a lot of focusing is about listening to your physical feelings. So it's not even a mental thing. It's like you feel like, oh, is my heart beating faster, or if there's a feeling in my gut. Um, Things like that have been really useful to me when I want to conceptualize thoughts. And I have my own like skill that I've never really written up anywhere except like in a private blog entry or something called switching, which is a cousin of focusing, where like you feel the thing you're feeling now, and then you feel a similar thing, and you really go back and forth and contrast the feeling you get there versus the feeling you're getting right now. So as an example, I know the feeling of going on tilt in poker very well from playing a lot of poker. There's a feeling in my stomach and it makes me feel sick. So if I get a feeling in my stomach for a particular event, I might replay mental events where I'm like tilting at a poker hand and be like, does this stomach thing feel like that stomach thing? And that will contrast the situation where it's like, oh yeah, that feels like I'm on tilt versus, oh, I have some GI issues. And kind of like, I think by doing things like that, you get some bits of information about what it is. And at least in this kind of very, still fairly like language based system too, for lack of a better word, way of thinking, I'm able to extract some of information about like what I'm doing by just saying, oh, the thing I'm feeling now is loss, or the thing I'm feeling now is feeling betrayed, or the thing I'm feeling now is authenticity, and going back and forth between those. So that helps a little bit, at least for me.
I see. So that's really good. I feel like that to kind of break it up again in a similar way. There's like that part of like, which I would, if I'm understanding correctly, it's kind of like that's the conversion of like some amorphous feeling to a more morphous feeling, right? Like a feeling with a bit more form that you can like start like having tangibility with. Um, so I think that's actually really good. I think that seems to be, the type of thing that I've been trying to practice more. So let's build it up again. So it's like, so you feel the thing, or you do these kind of internal introspection type of activities, and then you start to put it through these like your tools of converting it to language, right? So we can either go forward or we can go back. Because I think there's. And by the way, I shared the Google Doc link. If you want to open it, then you can see in real time. But I think, okay. So if we go forward, so like let's say like you have it being converted to some kind of language or languages, and the more languages you have, like the more kind of endpoints you can start getting to. um, and then I'd say the next step is getting it external to your head, right? So do you have any thoughts about that next step then? Is that, I mean, is this framing also like the way that you kind of think about things, or would you frame it differently? Because I think if you have a different framing, that's also interesting to like hear and think about.
I think it's fine. I just want to kind of add a step on purpose. Like,
Yeah.
so, like even before this, you have, I would say there's a part where you amplify feelings. That's what I meant by meditation. So meditation to me is a thing that allows your dim feelings to be amplified so you can actually see it. And after it's amplified, you can like focus or do other things to get like more amorphous things. And then
Mm-hmm.
you, as for putting feelings down, like to me, the specific step is like feelings to language. To me, this is the language of psychology, therapy, psychiatry. Because the whole point of those things is like you are now able to name like things like emotions or like talk about them in a nuanced way. So for me, I get a lot of that language from talking to, let's say, practicing therapists or psychologists, like, or occasionally like scaring like DSM-5 or something if we're talking about, so
But
like
and the strength,
pathologies or whatever.
like the thing that you're building up there is it, does it have to do with, does it have to do more with like attaching to common like understanding of language as other people use it, or is it kind of like more about trying to understand like how your internal like mind, like your cognition works, to try to like find a path through it in a way that like other people would advise? Does that make sense as the
I see.
two options?
No. Your question, yeah, your question is fine. I think for me, it's more of the former. It's like turning it into this boring but functional language that's expressive enough,
Yeah.
and then you like turn those into more poetic language when you want to turn it down. So I've actually been writing a lot of poetry or like rap recently, and there's almost like two paths here. One, you like turn it into this formal but like kind of boring language, and then you like poetify the language.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like if you're skilled or you're in the zone, I think you just skip this step, is that you go directly from feelings to the language, because your brain just flashes like, oh, this particular feeling I get, instead of like writing it down. It's like, this is like being hit while you're in a bicycle and in the middle of the road. Or you're like, no, this is a feeling you get when you like, you slip near the edge of a mountain, and then your breath leaves you out of fear. Like very explicit things hit you directly. Then you can
Yeah.
skip the middle stage. This is very much like solving math problems. Like sometimes you like get down to the bottom calculation, and then sometimes you just see the answer. So there's like two kind of routes that one can go. So maybe I'll even write that under A. So like two routes, feelings to like common boring language, like so psychology, etc., and then to like better language for external media,
Mm-hmm.
poetry, etc., or pictures, versus, I'll just do this actually, versus feelings directly to external language. And the prerequisite for this is like needs skill or being in a zone. But yeah, those two get you to the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. Yeah. That's quite good. I think that's so. I think I really like this breakdown, because I think, I think what might make sense is let's break down 1 and 2 also in this way, and then let's think about like what, maybe to like concretify it, like what exercises would make sense to like further like improve, strengthen like any of these particular like sub skills. I think that would be interesting to me. Does that sound okay?
Oh, I see. I guess I was trying to say that through my thing, so I can put that as sub points here. Like,
Yeah, I guess,
so
yeah, it's I think it's like separately interesting to know, okay, this is like the thing, like the way to conceptualize what the skill is, but then like
Oh,
each
I see, I
skill
see. Then
has,
there's the actual thing you practice.
and
Yeah.
like the exercise could be a subset of that skill too. It could be like not the entire skill itself. It could just be like a thing that like is one of the pieces of that skill, right?
Ah, I see. Yeah, those are this meta thing you're doing is yeah, is interesting that you think that way. For me, I'm a little bit resistant because the way I think about this way is like, well, you need to learn the skill now. And for every skill that's decently developed, I'm sure there's like 5 schools of thought on like how to practice the skill. So like I black box that thing. I black box a thing where it's like, oh, you want to better this skill, you like, I don't know, you Google it and then based on your own learning style, figure out what way best to practice that skill. So to me, if you like want to find the one way to practice something that's already it forces you to like take a particular stance of like pedagogy for some particular skill. Like to me, that feels like you're asking you're asking like a psychologist or something, what's the best way to learn the basic terms you have? And then I don't know, for some
Oh,
people that might
well,
be
yeah,
like flashcards or
yeah,
like
I didn't
whatever.
imply, or I didn't mean to imply like the word best here. Like not necessarily like the best way to train it, but just like examples of things that like as a result, like drills that as a result of doing like at least this skill or some part of this skill will be improved. So for instance, like if we're talking about additional languages, like an obvious one is like learn a different language, right? Learn, like if you don't know Japanese, learn
Right.
Japanese. I think for the ones where it gets a little bit more interesting is like these more nebulous ones that like, oh, I guess the language is already like the exercise, because the facet is trying to, the topic is kind of like having additional tools or endpoints that you can attach to in terms of like uh exportable language or exportable concepts, right? So you have like nebulous intuition, and then it's like if you have one language, then you're going to have strictly less endpoints to like try to, okay, this is kind of like that word, this is kind of like this word. But if you have multiple languages, you just have additional nodes to like say, okay, this word is more closely to thing I'm thinking of, and additional languages give you that, right? So learning new languages, I think the meditation, um and like I see what you're saying, because I was a little bit setting up the stream. So like I see what you're saying in terms of like a lot of these are examples of the things that you'd be doing, but I like, at least I thought the question was, or like the answers were given in the way to illustrate like what the thing is, whereas here it's just like, can we list out additional exercises, like. But anyways, maybe we go to that step after doing 1 and 2, because I think getting your thoughts on 1 and 2, uh, I think that's a first step that would be like more valuable before we delve into the details.
Okay. Sure. So, well, I think I think one is almost included in D or something. It's just like
And D, like
you
this
like
this one.
learn, yeah, and yeah, because like, you learn like therapy or something, right? And whatever that means is like now you learn some words, so you can convert your feeling into those words. You can be your own psychiatrist, and now you have those words. You like, I don't know, take poetry class or like figure out how to like turn those words into things. I don't know. So I don't know if there's like additional things in 1 and 2 is really hard to explain because like I would say 2 is like just some skill thing or like fluidity with this stuff. So I think you just like do this stack a lot and you get it. So I am at least personally unable to extract anything that helps in particular with items 1 and 2.
I see. Well, maybe let me give some examples, because the language here that I'm using for the bullet point might be too coarse or ambiguous. The way I think of like what I intended here for let's do 2 first and then go to 1, because it's like working backwards from where we were. So if 3 is taking that thought and getting it out, there's like kind of the step right before that is you have like random signals and feelings that you do feel, but um are kind of too amorphous for you to even like draw a conclusion out of it, or even draw a picture out of it, right? Like if we just take the language part out, like making it into like a picture is already hard. And let me give an example. It's like you know, I don't know, you go to some event that on paper is similar to some other event that you went to like the weekend before. So let's say like a party at a friend's house, or and you went to one friend's party one week and then another friend's party the next week, and then you come home thinking, oh, that second one was like really good, and that's just your feeling, and the and like maybe you're not even doing a comparison thing, but it's like, well, why was it good, right? And like all you know is the conclusion, and you have a bunch of thoughts that led to that conclusion, but like you didn't really process those. It kind of was like all processed in the background of your head, such that you just came out feeling good about it. Does that make sense? So like when I say organizing thoughts here, it's kind of like you had all those things, like all those observations that like made you feel like ultimately made you conclude this thing, but like but those thoughts are like not organized in a way that you can actually describe it. It's like someone that has never tried to describe why they like a certain food before. Compared to like a food blogger that does it all the time. Like the food blogger will just have much more like they're experiencing the same thing, but like kind of on some level. But the food blogger will like kind of pay attention to it more in a sense. Okay, so the paying attention to it, I guess, is a good way of thinking about what I meant by number two. And then number one, what I mean here is like paying attention to things that you've never paid attention to before, right? Like it's kind of like, I don't know, like I don't. It doesn't happen to me that often at this age, but it's kind of like uh, when when I first got into like app development, like I didn't really think about like I just kind of probably focused a lot on like functionality of things, right? Like I didn't even really like give much weight to or even like think, it's just like kind of a blind spot for me to even think about things like marketing materials, right? Or something else. It's just, but like if I go into now, it's like, okay, I'm thinking about all these things when I go into the same experience, same development. And at the end of the day, I'm going to result in the same thing, except like all these things are kind of like conscious now. Whereas before it was kind of like, my brain didn't even like expand to take in those signals, or like my conscious brain didn't really take in those signals. And I didn't draw, you know, too many, organized thoughts from that either. Like it just, you know, I don't know. Does that make sense for number one? Like seeing more things, kind of almost.
Okay, yeah. I think I might have a slightly better answer now.
Okay. And
So
also,
for
you
coming
can
up
feel
with
free to
topics,
suggest different wording here, because I don't think this captures exactly what I just wanted to create the bullet, but I don't know if this captures exactly, you know, the right way to.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I can play your game. I feel everyone's gonna have different ways of doing this, but I think two things that really stand out for me for number one are like, um, Sherlock Holmes was pretty influential for me, and one thing he used to say, I mean, he's not real, but one thing he would say is like, you see, but you do not observe. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of one mantra I've like kept for a very, very long time. And it's just like, and just even having that mode on allows me to like think about things maybe I've already seen and trying to like zoom in a little bit. And another mental picture I tend to have is like the idea of like you staring at something and like dilating your pupils, like your eyes like boggling or something. And that might help you think about the things that are already happening and then kind of um like being able to write down more things, or write down here might just be having them appear in your head. So in the party situation, right, rather let's just role play through that, because I think that's a very good example. If I had a better experience at like your party versus at Jeanette's party or whoever, um, I will first replay myself physically going through the two parties. Like, okay, what it felt like just did I actually do? It's like, well, first of all, where was I before the party? Did I like pregame? Did I have a good day or bad day? Because sometimes it might even be that, right? Maybe you went to
Mm-hmm.
one party with a bad day, and then you went one party in a good day, and then it doesn't even matter what the party is. It's just like, okay, I probably am just on prior, it's gonna be better for the day that feels good. So then I picture myself in that situation, pick myself actually like walking to the door. I see, who do I see first? Was there high energy? Did I like talk to kind of a boring person, someone who's sucking energy from me, or did I like meet someone who's like very fresh, very energizing? And then what did I do? And then like all the way through the process of even going home. So then these movies are kind of in my head, and then you can like zoom in onto the different parts of a movie, is like the parts that feel salient. So I think all of us have good enough memories, unless you're like from Memento or something, to be able to come up with the actual raw data somehow that's like hidden inside here. And then what I would do is then like ask myself, okay, let me, now it's just kind of a question like, suppose a movie made you feel good, right? You can ask yourself, well, which part of the movie made me feel good? Or is it like an arc? Is it like a particular shape? You just, well, how would we do it? Well, we would have a movie in front of us and we like slide through and we're like, yeah, I was feeling good here. Like what happened? And you can start binary search and finding it. And I think a lot of my organizational thought would feel like that. It's like, suppose I was really happy at a party. I mean, chances are there was like probably some really good event. Either it was like there's some really good event, or like I did not have like a singular bad event that owned me. Like even just with my past parties, the kind of thing that would own me is like one person was really draining, like maybe they're really sticking to the group or something, or maybe someone's like trying to fight me for a girl I'm talking to, that kind of stuff. And then just like even seeing those things appeared, or if there's a good thing, like obviously good examples would be you have a really good conversation with someone that you like, or you did really well socially in a big group and everyone thought you were the shit. And like I think those things will just start floating up when you do binary search, but you need to first have the data kind of in front of you in a kind of a movie form that you can replay, or at least like split into several parts. And it's not like I usually write these down. I just use my mental RAM, and that's probably sufficient. I expect most people will be able to do that.
So those I think were kind of in the direction. Your last comment was kind of in the direction that I was going to ask. So I think in terms of this, like, maybe for to turn it into something a little bit more like practically understandable, is it something that you think about during or after? Or okay, well, let me first say, like, probably everyone does this on some level, so it's more about ranking it, right? It's like, is it better to be like, is it the practice of like reviewing kind of the important step here, or is the practice like being present in the moment, and like, like, hey, this is a thing I need to remember, like, about like this event, right? Here, are we saying basically like, yeah, I guess which of those two, or are those interchangeable? It's just about spending the time.
Interestingly, the way I think about being present actually, like, I think is anti-correlated with me thinking anything in a meta at all, including like I need to remember this. Rather, I think I get the best benefit when I review really hard after something. But while I do the thing, I'm just trying not to be in my head. Like I'm actually trying not to have any external thoughts. Like I need to remember this, or like blah blah blah. I'm just really paying attention to the now, like the observe part. So maybe I do the observe part before entering the party door or something, and I shut it off completely. So like, it's kind of like acting or method acting or like improv. So
yeah,
in fact, I steal some tricks from improv when I used to do this. So like, suppose I walk into the door of someone's party, I'll be like, okay, you're confident, you're whatever, and you stop thinking now, like when the door opens, and then I'm just like constantly kind of in the moment. And I imagine most people skilled in something kind of do the same thing. I remember LeBron James talking about basketball this way, which is pretty interesting. Like he thinks about it kind of a lot, but during the game he like doesn't think, and then like after the game he can like replay it and think about it in a very detailed way, because that's when you can be cerebral without getting in the way of it.
Okay, so this made me think of, okay, so we talked about during and after. What about before, right? Like, and maybe that's getting into number one territory. It's like, how do you is there anything to do before to like prime yourself to have a better, input collection, for lack of a better word, so with still the same goal in mind of like ultimately exporting it to external medium to like, write something or something.
Yeah. Well, for me, it is exactly this thing I said, which is like, you take this thing seriously, you remind yourself you'll take it seriously, and you remind yourself you'll be in the moment. And for example, I'm like usually not on my phone. It's like if I'm in a situation where I like find it kind of really, really important. and just like try to be present and put things in my mental RAM. And there's also like, oh, I say that's the main thing, right? Like if you come to something and you don't think it's important, you probably won't remember anything. School is a really good example of this. If you go into any classroom and you're just like, well, I'm not going to remember anything, you probably won't. So you have to like kind of, you know, you have to like first care about it to some degree. I would say that's almost the only thing I do in something.
I see. Okay.
And I found this really useful in other things. It's like when I talk to a friend, especially if the friend needs help, I might pre-say something like, okay, remember, your friend is the most important person in this conversation, not you. Like I might remind myself of that, and then I start the conversation. I stop thinking about it, and during the conversation, I'm like paying 100% to my friend, because like if I don't say this to myself, maybe sometimes I'm like thinking about myself, or sometimes I get in a mood where like, oh, you know, he or she is sharing something. Oh, maybe I'll share one of my stories, but like, you know, maybe that friend just really wants to share and doesn't really want to hear my stories, right? And then you kind of ruin the moment that way. So like, even by reminding myself things of this, so they're kind of in the back somewhere, and then shutting off my brain, I get like a better recall or even a better navigation in the situation.
I see. I see.
I think that,
So I listed this as establish and reinforce the focal point, like, you know, kind of figure out what to pay attention to, or like what, you know, it doesn't have to be super specific, but
yeah.
kind of what direction even like you want to think about. Okay, so this isn't good.
Yeah,
I think
except there's a weird art here, like where you establish the focus, but then you like put it in the back, as opposed to in the front. Because if it's like always blaring in the front, it just kind of actually makes you act in like super incoherent ways.
Yeah, totally. So so this wasn't really good. I think just a time check to be respectful of your time, my time. Like I think we could, you know, we tend to be able to go on for hours about this stuff. So I think maybe this would be a good, like I don't know if this is good for you, because if it was, then I think we can maybe like get on another call some other day to fill out the rest of this, like details and so forth. Does that sound okay to you? Because you know, I would enjoy that. I think
this is the kind of stuff. I mean, this is stuff I like thinking about, and I might have some decent skill in. I almost have some preference to like hear your thoughts too, because I feel this was like more of an interview than a conversation somehow. I mean, you did help me like, I think you asked good questions that helped me flesh out different steps, but you know, I imagine you also have a creative process here, and just even talking about your own might be useful.
Yeah. I mean, maybe for
but
next
yeah,
time.
time wise, I probably do want to go soon.
Yeah. Well, maybe for
like
next
next
time,
5
but
minutes or
I'll
whatever.
summarize. Yeah, I think with topics, I think I'm always very mindful of the blind spots. So I do like maybe even the D point. It's like the focus on the, maybe if there's any focus, it's like focus on the negative space. It's kind of like these are the things that I either like, you know, I pay attention to the things that feel like they would give me a very different experience. So, you know, I'll even do things that feel irrational, right? Like, okay, pay attention to this thing that feels really low value. Like I think of it as a very low value thing, and then just like, you know, put more attention to it because like, well, that could be a potential blind spot. But I might come out of that experience reinforcing the idea, oh, that was super low value. But like I do try to check that, because I feel like just going really away from your like the direction that you tend to want to do, like it's almost like similar to the idea of like getting out of your comfort zone. It's just like, you know, like getting out of your perceived like value zone, I think is also like a good way to like kind of start taking in additional things. I think for me it was like programming and art. So like art was always something that I never felt particularly good at or interested in, but like I knew it was a necessary thing in app development, so like I just pushed myself in that direction. But that's not the only, that's just like a very maybe common example. But I think I just tend to do this with a lot of things. So like, you know, it's kind of like you know, like I don't, you know, I don't have a big history of basketball, but like when you went to exercise, I was like, maybe I'll do that, because I don't want to like consistently say no, right? Because like I don't want to shut myself to like off to potentially positive experiences, or like, you know, or even if it's not, okay, positive isn't even the right word. It's like these are experiences that I don't tend to have, so like I want to continue to like put in like random experiences or experiences outside of like what I'm used to. So I think that's kind of the direction I'd go with number one, like, or at least by default. So it's also, which is why like it's nice to hear other people and how they think about this stuff. Let's see, number two, organizing. This is the one that I'm still like kind of figuring out, because I do have, I'd say like in terms of my thoughts, a lot of it are in the like the nebulous ones. Like I know something, and like I know how I feel, and like when I'm talking to someone, like those conclusions do some like just come out often, but I'm not often just sitting there able to like like induce myself to go through that step. Like it's just kind of like in a conversation, like the thoughts will start flowing, and then I'll make some like, oh, that's a pretty interesting observation or something. Like to my like thinking. Sorry, when I say that, I'm like reacting to myself. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm just autopilot talking, and then I realize afterwards, like, oh, that was actually a pretty interesting observation. I should like write it down or something like that. But it'd be better to like, you know, figure out okay what is actually is going on there. So I think I'm really interested in like number two. You know, we could talk more about that. Yeah. Number three, let's see, collecting thoughts, explorable form. That's something I'm like trying to do now, which is why I'm interested in it. You know, for me, I think I mentioned like journaling. Like, you know, I'm like, so I started reading this book called the Poetry Handbook, Mary Oliver, and I'm I think only like either a third or halfway through the book, but I think at least one of the early advices that she gives is something like the way she characterizes it is like, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like a friend. Like your internal poet is kind of like a friend that like you need to like nurture. It's like you need to set a time, like sometime every day at like, you know, 10 p.m. where you're sitting down and like for an hour or two you just like write poetry. And this is in the context of poetry, but I you know, I'm just kind of generalizing that to probably be used for non-poetry things too. And what she says is basically like you do that, and if you show up like sporadically, then you know it's kind of like, you know, that friend, you know, is maybe also going to be sporadic. They like might show up sometimes, they might not, and if they don't show up, like your writing is not going to be like, you know, that next level kind of thing. But if they do show up, you're going to get that like next level thing, and you can further develop that. But the thing is, if you show up consistently day after day, then it's gonna get to the point where they're also showing up day after day, and they might even get there earlier than you do at some point. So I think getting to a point where it's like there is this like kind of, you know, that I think there's something there about that way of describing things that I'm really interested in trying to explore, because it does match kind of my experiences with other skills. But here with such a nebulous idea as like how to write poetry and like good poetry for that matter, like if that's the thing that gets you to that level, like, you know, I think my goals aren't even that lofty, but like if, you know, I can get something like in that category of value, I think that would be, you know, for me, like personally, like very enlightening and like satisfying. So yeah, so still exploring number three. And then number four, I think, you know, I tend to find like comfort, or not comfort, I find it very easy to kind of like focus a lot on like the technical aspects of everything and get really like have a lot of breadth in terms of like different stuff. So when you're talking about like YouTube videos, right, like I can like I immediately start like attaching to things like video quality, audio quality, like production, like having nice transitions, make sure the resolution is high, and like, you know, all the technical stuff surrounding like the thing. And I think the effort there is like I'm usually thinking in terms of the audience, like how can I, you know, if they're gonna listen to me, I want to like kind of give my respect or whatever, like basically just make it as enjoyable of an experience as possible, because I'm so appreciative that they'll listen to me in the first place, right? Like I think that's the way I tend to think about that stuff. But then in terms of like knowing what to say, like I probably at this point have things to say, but it's like, you know, trying to find the right way to craft it so that the information content is also follows that same quality of like I'm doing the best I can to make it as pleasurable of an experience, or at least not like least grading of an experience to the audience as possible. Like all this goes into the like I would like both appreciate and respect anybody that's like listening to me to the point that I'd want to like optimize all these things as much as possible. So like on the technical side thing, I'm like way more confident in, and maybe that's the easy part anyways. But I think in terms of how to do it from a construction or writing type of thing, I'm still kind of figuring that out currently. Like that's like I think in terms of like pre-baked ideas, I don't have too many. It's just that I'm really interested in trying to develop this further. Yeah, I think that summarizes everything. Any questions, or is that a good stopping point?
No, I think that's good. I have a better idea of where you are. Nothing specific to say that seems important. I should probably go soon, but yeah, I'm happy to do these in the future.
Yeah. I mean, was this like overall fun? Like I don't know, like I don't know.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. You can check the recording. Let me know if you have any. Actually, do you mind opening up right now and just tell me if you have any like, any like small like what's your reaction, like your 2 cents kind of thing, like does it if you see this playing like this.
Oh, the video.
Yeah, just this organization, like just this layout structure, like.
The video is private right now, so I thought you were gonna turn it on.
I thought private meant like I could at least send you. You can't even open the link.
I can open the link.
Oh, sorry. Let me just do that to get your.
Okay, sorry. I can open the link, but it says it's private. Yeah.
You can open the link, but you don't see any video, basically. Is that?
It says video unavailable. Yeah.
Oh.
This video is private.
Give me a second. Okay. I think there's like a difference between like unlisted and then private, or something like that. So maybe I just need to get to unlisted mode. Where do I find that? Okay. Okay. So try reloading now. I don't know if it updates immediately, but I could just show you from here. Let's see. Start.
I see something now. Yeah, I see the doc.
I see. Well, I was just gonna maybe do it this way, so you can just see me on Hangouts. Wait, once I change my webcam. Okay. I mean, you can see like my webcam on. Like this is what the stream would look like. Any thoughts? Like I don't know, good, bad, okay, like anything to improve.
Yeah, it's good to know. I probably want to put my camera somewhere so it doesn't.
I can also edit it after, like it's just literally getting all your thoughts.
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
For some reason, I want a better border around the right thing.
The right thing, the document.
Yeah, document.
Yeah. Okay. No, these are good suggestions. I think I would agree. Yeah, you'd probably want something there. Any other thoughts?
But it looks like I'm looking at it. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah. That's actually kind of cool.
Nothing for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe this is the right way to do it.
But yeah. Okay, cool.
Go.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, appreciate it. And then I guess I'll see you around.
Of course.
All right.
Good
Take
luck.
care, Yan.
Yeah.
All right.